We welcome you to our live webinar titled Myanmar Online Sales Business Registration, Do's and Don'ts. We thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this webinar. We will begin by introducing DFDL, then move on to our service offerings, and thereafter proceed to discuss the topic. Uh, After the topics are discussed, we will open the floor for question and answers, where at that time you can send in your questions and we'll try our best to respond to them within time. To move on, regarding the reach of our firm, DFDL is a regional law firm with offices in 10 countries, comprising more than 150 legal and tax advisors spanning 25 nationalities. The In the right side of the slide that you see, it lists the countries where we operate, along with the partners and the advisors in each of them. Now, in 2023, we opened a new office in Malaysia as well to cater to the business houses located there. So technically, Brunei and Timor-Leste are the only countries where we don't have our presence. We cover rest of the countries in Southeast Asia. In Myanmar, we are led by two partners and a team of around 10 legal and tax advisors, some of whom, like myself, are based outside of Myanmar, and we enter Myanmar on a need basis. We have an office in Yangon, and we also have a satellite office in Naypyidaw, which we use for government liaison purposes. Next slide, please. In terms of our regional expertise, we provide legal and tax services across a cross section of the economy of the jurisdiction where we operate. And we have designated practice groups led by experienced partners who provide legal and tax support to businesses in these jurisdictions. Now, as part of our aim to have one point of contact for our clients across regions within and outside of Asia, we have set up designated desks for certain countries and regions such as China, the European Union, India, and the United States. We also recently started a corporate advisory practice, which assists clients to map competition, uh, identify potential partners in business. We also help assess the feasibility of their plans to invest in a country where we operate. We also assist with preparing investment memorandum and so on. Now, this service has already gained traction with existing businesses in Thailand, Vietnam, Bangladesh, Laos, and Cambodia. Those businesses who are looking to, expand or partner with businesses already located in these jurisdictions, as well as new market entrants who are trying to enter these jurisdictions. In Myanmar, our practice covers routine corporate secretarial matters, corporate M&A matters, where we assist both buy and sell sides, respectively. We also work on project development matters, where we provide legal and tax structuring advice to private investors in connection with public private investment projects. We also work a lot on banking and finance matters, which is headed by a very seasoned advisor based out of the UK. In the recent past, including last year, we have been involved in several marquee mergers and acquisitions involving the sale of a popular hotel in Yangon. We were also involved in bond financing and security matters involving trust fund of the Asian Development Bank. And there were also several loan restructuring deals that we were a part of, which involved development financial institutions which were based out of the European Union. And also, we assisted several companies and bank institutions with their exit from Myanmar in the last year. Next slide, please. In terms of awards and rankings, as you can see, our offices across the region have been, consistently ranked by respected industry indexes like Chambers Asia Pacific, Legal 500, Asia Law, etc., for our legal and tax services that we provide to clients. Myanmar has always ranked around band one or tier one, depending on the industry index, for its general business law, project development, and banking finance related practices, along with the rankings issued to several partners for their outstanding client service. And these rankings are all based on peer reviewed and client feedbacks. Moving on, the next slide, please. To introduce our speakers for today, I am Surath, Senior Advisor at DFDL. uh, and I support the Myanmar team on corporate, commercial, and banking and finance related matters. I'm originally a banking and finance lawyer with around 7 years of experience working in Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos on corporate projects and inclusive finance matters as well. I am based out of Bangkok, Thailand, and fly into Myanmar on a need basis to support our on-ground staff and clients as the need arises. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Marmar Aung, who is also a senior advisor, and her focus is on several practice groups, including corporate, commercial, land, and dispute-related matters. She has around 10 years experience working in Myanmar and is based out of our Yangon office. Both of us will be leading today's webinar. We intend to make this webinar as more more of a discussion between ourselves rather than a one-way dialogue. So we hope that you will find it useful. Next slide, please. In terms of the agenda, we intend to cover 4 topics, as you can see. We will reserve some time at the end of the presentation for questions. However, feel free to type in your questions during the presentation, and we can attempt at addressing them during the question answer slot, which is scheduled for later. But please note, we are not tax lawyers and would therefore not deal with tax related aspects today. However, please send in your questions that you may have on this forum, on Teams chat, etc., or to our email addresses, which we will show at the end of the presentation. And then we can liaise with our tax colleagues and provide you with a high level response on a one-time basis as required. So I think with that, we can start the presentation. The first slide pertains to the legal permit landscape. In this regard, it's pertinent to actually give some sort of a background as to how the online sales business registration notification came into being in the first place. To put it simply, this notification is born out of the essential supplies and services law, which is which states that the union government may empower any ministry in Myanmar to regulate matters relating to possession, storage, transport, or utilization of certain goods or services which are designated as essential by the relevant ministry. So pursuant to that power, the Ministry of Commerce was authorized to designate certain sectors of the economy as essential. And pursuant to that authorization, the MOC designated online sale or retail registration businesses as essential. Online retail or sale businesses as essential. And based on that, it published the online sales business registration notification, which sets out, among other things, the criteria for registration of such services, the eligibility, etc., and the duration of the registration certificate. What happens if you don't register? What are your responsibilities as a registration certificate holder? What are your rights, etc.? And what are the repercussions if you do not renew your registration certificate, and so on. Based on our understanding, we think that the legislative intent was to regulate the activities of online sellers, to not only protect the interest of the consumers, but also to introduce some sort of tax regime to regulate these entities who engage in sale via Facebook and other online network systems. Now, as per the notification, the legal persons such as companies, organizations, etc., which are already registered with DICA or the cooperative society, etc., they can register, as well as natural persons like individuals. They can register their online businesses provided they uh, qualify to certain criteria which is listed in the notification. For companies, for example, the criteria includes whether they are currently, registered with DICA. For organizations, whether they are registered with the cooperative societies, etc. Whether the company has an official website for the sale, whether you have a physical location from where you want to carry out the sale, and where you want to store your products, etc., and sell it from there, and all this requirements. For individuals, the requirement pertains to the age of majority. That is, whether you're 18 years or above, whether you're a resident in Myanmar, and whether or not you are blacklisted by any government authority, and so on. Now, the notification does not anywhere stipulate any revenue or other qualification threshold for registration or retail. For registration of the retail business, the requirements that bluntly apply are your registration, whether you are registered as a legal entity in Myanmar for companies, but there is no economic or financial threshold or revenue related statistics which are mentioned in the law as a criteria for registering as an online sale business with the Department of Trade. Now, the process of application is pretty straightforward. So you need to go to the website called www.ecomregistration.gov.mm, where you sign up to create an account. You fill in the relevant forms to register. You provide the relevant information. Now, this is important because you need to provide the list of goods, including the warranty and related information. You also need to provide and these are all legal requirements. These are mentioned under the online sale business notification. You need to provide the details for companies. You need to provide the details of a management officer, a management level officer of the company, and you also need to obtain a recommendation from a local government, that is the township authorities where in the township where you're located, in order for them to confirm that you are located at that particular place and you intend to carry out your business from that location. Uh, Once all of this is done, you press submit, and the application is sent to the Department of the Directorate of Trade, which is the nodal agency that regulates the registration and other administrative aspects in relation to registration of online sale businesses. Now, there is a requirement under the online sale business registration for the DOT and the Consumer Affairs Department to carry out an on-site inspection to check the location where you're offering your business services from, the physical location, and subject to the satisfaction of the DOT and the Consumer Affairs Department that you satisfy all the legal requirements as mentioned in the online business sales registration notification, and you conform to all other applicable laws, all the other laws that apply to you, then the DOT will provide an online notification to you confirming that your registration will be granted, subject to you paying the registration fee. The payment of the registration fee will happen online and through the account that you have created with the e-commerce website. And payments can happen by your Visa or MasterCard or MPU, and this payment has to be online only. You cannot pay cash. The entire process is online, so there is no physical cash requirements in this scenario. Now, once you submit the fees, they will further do some internal checks, etc., and issue the registration certificate to you. Now, the online registration sale business notification does not state. I think it does not state the number of days within which the DOT will issue the registration certificate, but it only states that from the date it notifies you that you are eligible to pay the service fees. Within 2 weeks from that date, you need to pay the service fees, failing which you run the risk of losing that application, and there'll be a requirement to freshly apply again. Now, there is also a possibility that the DOT may refuse to okay your application. Now, under several circumstances mentioned in the law. So if, for example, your application does not have the requisite information or correct information regarding the list of goods, etc., then you have the opportunity. I mean, the DOT will again write back to you, notify you saying that, look, you do not have the correct information. Please amend your application and resubmit. So in that situation, you will have around 30 days from the date you receive the notification from the DOT to resubmit the application, to actually again lodge the application to via the online account to DOT. Now, as per the notification on the amount of fees payable for every amendments, irrespective of whether you are a company or an individual, you need to pay an amount of around 3,000 Myanmar kyat. And for fresh registration for companies, you need to pay around 70,000 Myanmar kyat. And for companies or organizations who can show that they are SME registered, there is a further rebate to that registration fees. It will be brought down to around 50,000. For individuals who want to register their business, they have to pay around 30,000 Myanmar kyat to register. And the amount that you have to pay for for the amendment application is 3,000 kyat, irrespective of whether you're a company or an individual. Now, there is also a requirement for you. I mean, the registration certificate, once it is issued, it is for a duration of around 2 years from the date it is issued, and you have to renew that registration certificate. At the time of renewal, 60 days before the expiry date of the registration certificate, you need to apply again online to the DOT and apply for renewal of the certificate. And again, pay the relevant application amount at that time online, and you will be given the updated certificate. Now, the law does not mention whether the renewed certificate will be for a greater duration than 2 years, but we can assume that upon renewal, it will again be for a further period of 2 years, unless the government comes up with some other notification which says that there will be, say, 5 years. Upon renewal of the 2 years registration, you'll get a 5 years registration certificate. But there is no such indication as of now. Also, there is no. Sorry, you can change the slide. Sorry. Yeah, thank you. And also, in case of renewal, so if you don't apply for renewal within a period of 60 days prior to the date of your expiry of the registration certificate, you run the risk of losing that registration. And as a consequence, you will again have to reapply online, pay the online application fees, and then re-register your business with the DOT. Like weirdly enough, the notification does not indicate, does not seem to put a cap on the number of times that you can reapply to register the business in case there is any fault, or in case the DOT does not accept on account of your application being incomplete, or if the DOT is of the opinion that there is some fraudulent aspect, etc. Now, even though the notification does not provide a limit on the number of times you can reapply, I think there is some sort of there is some sort of purpose behind this. This could be possibly done so that DOT has sufficient discretionary power to put a cap on the number of applications on an ad hoc basis. So say for example, if you have applied already, you have applied to get the registration certificate once, but it comes back again to you for changes, and you send it back to them after making those changes, but somehow it again comes back from the DOT. So there is no number of, limit on the number of times the back and forth can happen. This is maybe an oversight, or maybe this was done purposefully so that DOT can later on, in its own discretion, put a limit on the number of times you can reapply, but we don't know that yet. So as of this date, there is no limit on the number of times you can reapply the application. And yeah, if all the conditions in the online, if you confirm with all the conditions in the online registration notification, then you'll be given a certificate anyway, so that's not a problem. What happens when you get the certificate? Can we move to the next slide, please? So the notification provides certain rights that you get as a business owner during the period of your registration. So you will have the right to receive payments for the goods and services that you provide to your consumer. You will also have the right to sue such consumer for non-payment of the service fees, etc., for the goods and services fees. Similarly, you will also have the right to defend your business against any consumer claims. Now, what we understand is that the idea is that the sale and purchase will be, similar to any enforceable contract in Myanmar, and the terms of such sale shall be respected by the parties. So now the only thing is the enforcement mechanism is something that is not directly mentioned in the notification. It is unclear if the goods and service provider should first go to the Department of Consumer Affairs and then to the court in order to plead its case against the consumer. There is a consumer protection law which heavily protects the consumer, but there is very limited avenue for recourse for a business owner, which is obviously the case in many jurisdictions in this region and across the world. And in case of the consumer, we understand that they can take the approach under the consumer protection law, such as first, going to the Department of Consumer Affairs to file a complaint, and then the officer of the department will investigate and call the parties to mediate. And thereafter, any aggrieved party may file an appeal to the Consumer Protection Commission, and then the decision will be final. Now, we understand that either party in their capacity as the consumer or entrepreneur can approach a court of law to decide any claims pertaining to the violation of consumer or entrepreneur rights. But it's difficult to indicate, obviously, the facts we have. We cannot indicate any prior case laws. We cannot discuss any prior case laws because there is no publicly available resource for us to refer. So it's difficult for us to pinpoint under which circumstances, or what are the in reality how many cases of consumer complaints have been lodged, and what is the dispute resolution mechanism, and how effective they are. We are not able to guide you on that at this point of time. So there is some sort of a risk in not knowing what those processes are. And there is also, I mean, the online business registrations law notification is quite silent on whether the Consumer Protection Act applies to to the sale and purchase, which is construed under the notification. More on that in the next slide, please. So there are under the notification, there are certain responsibilities that the entrepreneur or the business owner has towards the consumer. Uh, Now we have listed a few of them in these slides, but so basically, if you violate these responsibilities, then and the DOT is able to discover that you have violated these responsibilities on its own accord or by way of complaint. We don't know; it's not mentioned in the notification. Then the DOT may take certain administrative actions against you, which includes also revocation of the registration certificate that has been issued to you. However, like from a risk perspective to your business, as a business owner, it becomes important for you to understand the recourse that you may have, like, I mean, the recourse that a consumer may have if he or she is affected by your product. Now, the online this online business registration notification does not say that the consumer can take action against you under the consumer protection law. But then if on that basis I mean, it could not have been the intent of the legislature to also leave the consumer completely high and dry. So based on this agreement and based on this understanding, we can make an argument that you qualify as an entrepreneur under the Consumer Protection Act, and consequently the consumer can file a complaint against you to the Department of Consumer Affairs, regardless of what course of action the Department of Trade takes against you under the online sale business registration. So what I mean by this is, tomorrow if you violate any responsibilities under the online sale registration notification and the DOT finds out, the DOT can revoke your license. Simultaneously, at the same time, if the consumer is affected by the sale of the products that you made to them, there is also a potential possibility that they may take action against you, civil or criminal, against the Consumer Protection Act. The link is not there between the online sales business registration and the Consumer Protection Act, but one cannot, overlook the possibility of this link being drawn by the regulators in case such an issue arises at the time. Now, as I mentioned, the standard of responsibility that you owe to your consumer under the online sale business registration notification, is it at par with the standard that is expected under the Consumer Protection Act? We don't know. Is there a possibility that both the standards are the same? Yes, there is a possibility, and therefore there is increased risk for you under the Consumer Protection Act as well, in addition to the administrative sanctions that take place that can be initiated against you by the Department of Trade under the online sale business registration notification. Now, in a proper like a standard jurisdiction, what ideally would have happened, for example, in India, like for clarity of enforcement, it would have been much prudent to have one overarching e-commerce regulation, not a bulletin, and which would have covered all e-commerce activities, including your online sale business. And then such law should have, ideally linked the responsibilities of e-commerce service providers and consumers alike to the consumer protection law. But instead, now we have an e-commerce guideline which says that the violators will be punished under the relevant laws. Now, this potentially creates a confusion in that, like when it comes to the enforcement of the rights of the parties. Like just as an example, if you an online business registration holder is in default under the online, and like I discussed, like what is the level of risk that you face under the Consumer Protection Act for having violated, your responsibilities under the online registration, business registration notification? While we understand that yes, there is a link, but unless there is a direct, legal relation that is established between the two, it's very difficult to clearly identify and address the risk in that. So this is something which possibly the regulators will have to consider in times to come. The next slide, please. Something which is very important is protection of consumers' personal information. Now, the personal data protection regime in Myanmar at this point of time is pretty weak. There are several factions of laws, but violation of those laws entail specific civil and as well as potentially criminal liabilities as well. So you should be very careful while getting information of the consumer for the purpose of your sale. You should be very careful that you don't disclose that information to anybody else other than the government, or pursuant to any legal requirements. So this is something which you as a business owner would have to be very careful about. And goes without saying that as a business owner, you will have to abide by all the guidelines issued by the Ministry of Commerce and the Department of Trade, which works under the Ministry of Commerce. So this goes without saying. It becomes very difficult to keep track of all the regulations, etc. These some of the potential challenges that we'll be discussing in the next slide. Can you move to the next slide, please? So basically, since there is an obligation for you to adhere to the laws and regulations that are released by the MOC and DOT from time to time, it's a potential risk that if you are not made aware of those laws, because most of the times those laws are issued to specific persons, specific departments, etc., and those are not made public. So in such situations, it becomes very important to have some sort of an expert who can guide you through the process, who has the necessary wherewithal to contact the relevant ministries and get the information for you and help you with the compliance related processes. And more on this will be dealt with by my colleague Marmar, who is quite impatiently waiting to speak right now. So I think I'll pass over the mic to Marmar to discuss and take this a bit further. I'll obviously supplement the discussion from time to time. Marmar, please go ahead.
Thank you, Surath. I just wanted to discuss about the potential challenges. Actually, these challenges are faced by the online sales business operator. Common challenges. And the first one is the, as you know, there are regulators may specify from time to time issue new regulations or additional requirements. Or today they will specify these are regulations, requirements that a business operator to comply with. But tomorrow they may issue or they may change their policies, set new regulations, new policies. In such cases, that's why similarly in the practices, they may. This is the common issues. Common issues is especially in Myanmar. There are always discrepancy between the regulations and practices. So, for example, today, why the regulations set a specific timeline to issue the registration certificates or permits within a specified timeline. But in practice, it may take more longer than timeline to get the to get the permit or registration certificate. These are practical issues. That's why the investors or online sales business registration online sales business operator needs to make sure to be aware of any changes in policies and regulators, news regulations need to make aware of this to avoid any potential risks or any potential difficulties in their operating their businesses. The second one is a common challenge faced by the online sales business operator, especially in Myanmar, due to the network connectivity and technical errors. For instance, the service provider may face a circumstances where the consumers initiates the payment for the goods and the transaction shows as a complete, but the consumer service provider actually does not receive the payment. In such cases, another problem is that the service provider and customers face the difficulties like they cannot get easily assistance from the digital payment service provider to solve the urgent issues such as wrong payment transaction. In such a cases, then it is difficult to contact the digital payment service provider to solve the problem. in such cases. The third one is the cyber attack. This is also a common issue faced by the online sales business operator. For example, the social network platform used for the online sales and may have experience to cyber attack. In such cases, the operator can cause the online the social platform shut down. In such cases, the online sales cannot operate their businesses. In such cases, so the last one is the order servicing challenges and customer experience. This is also a common challenges faced by the online sales operator. For instance, especially under the current situation in Myanmar, online service provider using third-party delivery service provider may face the difficulties such as inability of third-party service delivery service provider, and also delays in servicing the orders, such a difficulty. Another instance is that the service provider, the delivery service provider may return the goods to the online sales online sales business owner in cases they cannot contact to the consumers, and that's why they return the goods to the online sales service provider. Such cases. These are also common challenges faced by the online sales service provider. Next slide, please. That's why these are also typical best practices and that it should exercise by the online sales service operator. These are also stipulated in the order duties of the online sales business operator. So they need to make sure these to comply with this. Then you should not sell. You should sell your goods and services that mentioned in the application, and you shouldn't. You cannot sell the goods and services that you have not applied and you have not mentioned in your application. So if you want to expand your offer or your services or goods and not mentioned in the application, you have to apply to the MOC to modify your registration certificate to cover additional goods and services. And also, you have to make sure transparency in your dealings with the customers to avoid potential consumer claims. This is very important for the online sales business registry, online sales business operator, because the order expressly states the service provider needs to take care of these consumer claims and not to avoid these consumer claims. You have to take responsibility. This is also expressly binding by the order. You should also use your registration certificate to sell your goods. If you cannot sell you cannot transfer your registration certificate to third party. It is if you transfer, it will be illegal, and your registration certificate can be revoked. So this is also important. The next one is you have to provide clear payment instruction to consumers, how to payment will be made, and the consumer have how to pay cash or online or something like. You have to make clear with this with your customers. Next slide, please. This is also important. You have to keep your consumers' personal information as confidential. You cannot share customers' personal information with any third party, and unless it is required under the law. This is very important. You have to keep customers' information, and you have to also use the online platforms for selling goods and services. Only you cannot use or let someone else use it for the activities that could disrupt public order, peace, and tranquility. This is very important because many people use if you use or let someone use any other that make considered by the regulatory authority or government. This is makes affect to the peace and tranquility. You have to you have to be taken action by the government. And you have also have a strong internet policies to prevent the impacts of hacking and cyber attacks. This is also very important. If you do not set internet policies to prevent these impacts of hacking or cyber attack, that your business will be difficulties to operate your businesses. This is also very important. These are the licensed business operator should set the best practices, should exercise these practices to mitigate any potential issues, any potential customers claims, to avoid the taken action by the government. You should take care of these. You should practice these best practices. That's all.
I think just to add to what Mama has said, I think it's important to remember not to transfer the registration certificate that you get. That's the most important point, because in most of sales that happen over Facebook, etc. Now, since they are regulated, you cannot. There are certain rules and regulations that has to be followed. If you get a registration certificate for a list of goods that you had applied for, you are required to only sell that those list of goods and services. If you want to expand, of course, the law allows you to expand, so you'll have to file an amendment of the application and take all the relevant approvals, etc., and then proceed to sell those extra goods and services, but not without the approval. I think that's all we have from our side. Let us know if you have any, questions. If it is tax related, like I said, please let us know. We'll obviously note your name and address. Sorry, your email address, and we'll get back to you by email after discussing with our tax colleagues. But if you have any legal related questions, please let us know, and we'll try our best to respond to you during this call. Do small scale online shops need to register, and if there is any threshold on the revenue or any other factor that determines the need for registration? Like we discussed during the initial presentation, that there is no economic or financial revenue based threshold which is established under the law, which will entitle you to register. You as a company or you as an individual will only have certain obligations which are non-financial, and as far as soon as you conform or you fulfill those eligibility criteria, you are ready to register your business with the DOT. We also had an additional question whether, like, hotels sell and obtain online bookings on website and third party, what new local laws apply? Now, this is quite a broad question, like depending on the vertical that the hotel operates in. So, for example, in case of marketing and a booking of reservations, etc., based on the current language used in the law, it beggars description. I mean, it's almost clear that any person who provides online goods and services, which includes providing any sort of reservation services from your own website, you will be liable to register your business online with the Directorate of Trade. There is no currently there is no exemption for hotels separately or any other businesses. But when it comes to, say, selling, I mean, through a third party, using some third party websites to sell reservations at your hotel, etc. Now, that is not clear if in that circumstances also you need to register your business with the DOT. We hope to receive some sort of clarification from the DOT or the MOC in the days to come, but at this point of time, there is no such clarity. And in terms of other new local laws, well, in terms of for hotels specifically, if from a corporate perspective, you will have your relevant corporate secretarial requirements. There is no new law regarding or amendments to the hotel license law, so there is no requirement on that respect. But there are certain other legal developments that have happened, like for example, in with respect to your IP registration regime that has been introduced recently, the re-registration, etc., for which we are also conducting another webinar at the end of this month or maybe early March, which will be good if you could attend, where we will be discussing all these issues. And from a foreign law perspective, foreign exchange perspective, for a hotel, like it's difficult to remit monies offshore, etc. So I believe this is already common information, so we are not delving into that during this presentation. But I don't think there are any other questions at this point of time. So unless there is anything else, I think we could call this session to a close. Here is the QR code. Once you scan it, you'll be able to get a copy of this presentation. We'll also try and upload this on YouTube so that you can also share this with contacts that you know, and maybe we can have a further dialogue on this. Please feel free to drop a feedback, and we hope to see you in our IP related webinar sometime in the future. Thank you very much.